Everyone has at least one joint that pops, clicks, or snaps. And I've noticed that it sparks a lot of anxiety. I've been there myself, and so have millions of others. And hence in this video, I'm going to be showing you why most fears are totally overblown, what the latest research shows, and how you can finally stop stressing over your joints making some noises. With a few caveats, of course. Let me guess. You're probably here because you have felt some grinding sensations or heard some popping sounds within the shoulders when you're doing certain movements or exercises. Perhaps from one of my previous videos that you have followed, and wondering whether these sounds or sensations are deteriorating your joints or destroying your joints in the long term. Well, let me share with you a recent study done by Jamin Couch et al., of which 41% of the general population had audible joint sounds. That's nearly half of everyone, and 36% of them were completely pain-free, meaning to say that even people who have healthy joints have these sounds too. We are either slowly destroying our joints, or we've been thinking about this completely wrong. Now, I'm someone who has spent years obsessing over functional mobility. Not because I'm naturally gifted, I wish I was, but because my body started to betray me despite doing everything right with regards to my training at that point of time, which was 12 years ago. And just like the majority of people, I only started to gain an interest and started to dive deeper into this topic when crisis mode hit. Before I specialized in rehab and mobility, I was that person that never missed a workout. But I'm not gonna lie, I neglected the foundation of mobility itself. And for joint sounds, they were part of my daily soundtrack. Let's start with the science, because understanding the mechanism behind it will give you more confidence so that you don't have to worry so much. There are essentially three types of joint sounds you need to know about. The first is cavitation, and this is the classic crack you hear when you pop your knuckles. And this is when the air bubbles in your synovial fluid collapse, creating that satisfying pop. This temporarily enlarges the joint space, which is why you feel looser afterward. I chanced upon something interesting while doing the research as well. Dr. Donald Unger cracked one of his knuckles on one hand for 50 years daily, and he compared it to the other side that he didn't crack. And he found out that there was no difference in arthritis progression. I don't know how I'm even gonna remember doing it daily like he did, but that's something interesting to take note of when he literally used himself as a human experiment for the 50 years. The second reason that might be causing a sound is that your tendon or ligament might be sliding across the bones. This produces snapping or clicking as tissues move over the bone surfaces. It's a completely normal mechanical process. Thirdly, it can come from scar tissues or muscle imbalances. These can create more persistent sounds, often from previous injuries or compensation patterns. Here's the paradigm shift. The sound itself is not the problem. You have to think of it as a symptom of how your joint is moving and not a cause of degeneration. So next time your shoulder pops or cracks, remember, it's your body doing its thing, not a sign that you're falling apart. Now, this doesn't mean that all joint sounds are benign. Let's talk about red flags. When we're looking at pain-free joint sounds, the technical term for it is Crepitus, and this requires no treatment for it. But here's what changes the equation entirely: pain. If your clicking is accompanied by pain, especially during activities, then this could result in acute tissue damage. If your joint feels unstable or you have some form of swelling or inflammation in the joint, that's your nervous network naturally limiting range to protect you in positions you can't control. So if you notice that you can't do things that you normally would, like climbing stairs or lifting objects, in this case, the sounds might be a sign that something's up. So if your joints are noisy but pain-free, you can relax. Your joints are not falling apart. However, the red flags come in when you have pain, swelling, or even loss of function. Otherwise, keep moving. Alright, so what do we do with all this information? Here's where most people get it backward. They hear the clicking noises and they immediately think, oh, I need to avoid those particular movements so that it doesn't click anymore. But that's not the solution though. In fact, it's the opposite. You need to build trust with your body by gradually loading those movements. Your nervous system is like an overprotective parent. It limits your ranges of motion in the areas that you can't control. So avoiding those ranges of motion doesn't really help. What you want to do instead is to build strength and neurological control in exactly those areas that are required. So if your joints are clicking but pain-free, here's what to do. You need to train through full controlled ranges of motion. Start with slow, deliberate movements. Focus on building your tissue's load-bearing capacity and not avoiding the sounds. And lastly, treat the clicking as feedback. For shoulder clicking, which I see constantly a lot on my previous videos comment section, this usually points to scapular control and rotator cuff capacity issues. Now you might have heard that the clicking sound can be reduced, but this is not because we are fixing the sound, but because we are improving the underlying mechanics. So loading your joints safely triggers your body to grow stronger, builds resilient connective tissues, flushes out waste, and keeps your muscles healthy. In short, motion is medicine. I'm sure you've heard that before, but I just had to use it. Bottom line is, don't fear the sound. Instead, use it as a guide. Controlled movement is how you build a body that's strong, resilient, and ready for anything. Now, some of you might be thinking, this makes sense, but what if my situation changes or my situation is a bit unique? If you're struggling to find out what's right for your specific shoulder issue, I do work with a small number of people one-to-one through my shoulder rehab coaching program. It's personalized to your movements with video feedback and ongoing support with many other tools provided. There will be a link in the description for you to sign up for the waitlist. But for those of you who know exactly what you're doing, the approach that I've been sharing, especially through my previous videos, will be exactly what you need to get yourself started. Here are the key takeaways for this video. If you have no pain, full function, and just some noise, keep training. Just program intelligently and use the sounds as feedback and not warning. However, if you have pain clicking and you're losing function, that's your cue to get it checked with your local healthcare professional. The goal shouldn't be to have silent joints. It's to move with strength, resilience, and zero pain. Sometimes it comes with a bit of a soundtrack, but that's perfectly normal. Your joints clicking is extraordinarily common, usually benign, and it shouldn't limit you to how you live your life. What matters more is how you actually respond to it. Now you know what Crepitus is, how to spot the difference between harmless clicks and true red flags, and when it's safe to keep moving. But here's one last insight for you. If you want lasting joint health, you can't just shrug off the clicking noises. You need to continuously maintain and improve the underlying mechanics. Not with random stretches or one-size-fits-all solutions, but with targeted exercises that help you address the exact mechanical issues behind the noise. So watch this video next to start building up your rotator cuff muscles to set up the foundation to improve your shoulder mobility.